Well, welcome to our audience. My name's Carter Perez, and I'll be the panel moderator for this session, How Not to Lose Your Job in 18 Months as a Revenue Leader. And joining me are Daniel, who is still logging in, and Neil. Neil, why don't you introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, thanks, Carter. So my name is Neil Ringers, and I provide the leadership for Revenue Grid from a selling perspective. And I've been in the CRM space for over 20 years. Was fortunate enough to work for companies like Salesforce and Oracle and smaller companies like TOA, who actually got acquired by Oracle. So I'm really excited about the session and learning more about how to save your job at 18 months.
Good well, session. The title was really born out of the trend that has been going on. I'm sure as revenue leaders, most of us are painfully aware of it at times, but the tenure of VPs of sales and CROs has been precipitously declining over the last several years to a point where it's now the average tenure of a revenue leader is 16 months. So we'll hopefully be able to share with you a few ideas on things to do to improve your performance and your team's performance. And with that, welcome, Daniel. Neil and I just finished introducing ourselves, so perfect timing. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll get started.
Great. Thanks, Carter. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Baldino, Senior Vice President, Digital Marketing at Bessemer Trust. I have over 20 years of experience in digital acquisition marketing, with a strong focus on digital strategy, automation, user experience. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. Sorry I was late.
No worries. So let's maybe start with, if we think about tenure and revenue leadership, I think in my mind, there are three pillars that can help a revenue leader improve performance. The first one is, I think, adoption, success roadmap. How do we get the reps involved and keep them involved? The second one is enabling coaching and feedback to our teams earlier in the sales process. And then the third one is kind of visibility and being able to see, particularly if you've got an enterprise sales cycle, out into 2 and 3 quarters beyond where you currently are, just to make sure that you've got pipeline quality sufficient to make the plan in those outlying quarters. But let's start with, how do we get the reps onto our platforms using the tools, and how do we show them ultimately a roadmap for success? Daniel, I think you've got some experience with this. You want to take a crack at that one?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's a great place to start. So, I think for me and my experience has always been trust, right? Building trust with the sales reps. Once you have that trust and they trust what you're saying and what you're proposing to them or recommending, they're more willing to listen and to try it. I can think of an example. Before I came to Bessemer Trust, I was a consultant and I had a client with about 15 to 20 sales reps. And there was always this one guy that was very resistant to any change, any idea we would bring to him. I'm not going to use his name. I'll call him Bill for this story. So Bill was very resistant. Anytime I would say, we should try this, Bill was there for probably 20 years, 30 years, and was very successful and just didn't see the value in trying technology. And so what I really had to do was become friends with Bill, right? And try to build that trust with Bill. And I would sit with him and we would try to do different things. So I challenged him and said, let's run a quick test. Let me show you how this new technology can work for you and make your life easier and even probably make you more successful. And so he agreed. We did the test and we had a quick win. And so just that alone, spending that extra time, it helped Bill trust me more. And Bill became a cheerleader of mine after that. So anytime we rolled things out after, I would often go to Bill and say, hey, Bill, I'm going to roll this out this week or next week, what do you think? Get his buy-in. And then at those meetings, he was a cheerleader. He was there saying, this is great. This is going to be awesome. Let's try it. So it's definitely building trust.
Awesome.
Yeah, Daniel, It's a great answer, and I appreciate it. Thanks for the question, Carter. Yeah, it's a really important phase, right? The early phases of a sales career, especially at your new company. So now it's time to adopt all the tools that you have. And I think, unfortunately, right now, there's just a lot of tools out there for sales reps to learn. It's CRM and marketing and building velocity and, tracking all the information that it takes to, run your territory and run a kind of a sales motion. And I think the piece now, which is really important, is change management, right? It's just managing the change and managing these tools. And that's why technology is really important. And it's almost ubiquitous now from a tools perspective. And I really don't even like to say tools, because if it's working, it shouldn't be a tool, and it shouldn't be that hard. It needs to be intuitive to be able to work these kind of these kind of programs to be successful. So if I look at systems, I want to be able to do what I need to do within one pane of glass. And if it's CRM like Salesforce, and all the data is in front of me, so it helps me be a better sales rep. So all the information that I need to go to is in one place. That's helpful. And from a change management perspective, I don't have to learn a new password, or I don't have to learn a new UI. It's intuitive, it's in front of me, and it allows me to do my job every day without going through weeks and weeks of courses of how to run these tools. So I think change management is crucial to the success, and getting these sales reps on the street as fast as we can and making them productive.
Awesome. And are there, as you think about creating a success roadmap for a new rep in particular, are there any strategies, tactics, or tools that you guys have used that you found effective?
Yeah, I could start with that one. So coming from the digital side, which is marketing technology, not so much the sales side, right? So we're trying to get these sales reps interested in these new tools. I think it's building excitement, and for us, it's really listening to those pain points. So what's happening today, what's working, what's not working. And when you're rolling out new tools, and this happened to us last year when we rolled out some new tools, it was the pain points stuck out to me. And every time I would demonstrate the new tools, I would always go back to the pain points and say, you mentioned this last time, this wasn't working for you, or this is really painful. Well, look how easy it is now. This is going to take us 2 minutes as opposed to 40 minutes in the past when you were trying to do the same thing. So, I think it definitely, it starts with trust, and then you want to build that excitement. You almost want to be a marketer to the salespeople and try to get them on board what you're trying to propose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think now we have AI, artificial intelligence, that is starting to get baked into our process. So to Daniel's point, right? So this digitization process that we're in, how do we create, for example, a playbook and digitize it and put up the guardrails of what that process is? And when we go off the guardrails to the right, technology can help and maybe provide a signal to that salesperson that says, hey, we've made that mistake before. Let's not make it again. But don't take the time of the manager or the VP. Let that technology, teach the sales rep for some of the tactical things that they may be making mistakes in, and let AI drive some of the process. It's never going to drive all of it, but now we've got this technology to help keep the salespeople within these guardrails. And I think it's amazing where the point we're at, and we've got a long way to go to make it perfect, but it's really helping out from a sales process and digitization perspective.
Very cool. I think that leads really naturally into the next topic, which is, coaching at an earlier stage in the sales cycle. One challenge I think a lot of revenue leaders have is they only get involved with a transaction when it's closing in the month or the quarter that they're in, when in fact, if they paid a little bit more attention to a deal in the discovery phase or in earlier stages of the deal's development, we might have had a better quality deal. And so would love to hear any tools, tactics, or tricks that you guys have experienced that helps the reps, put together a better sale earlier in the process.
Yeah.
Neil, you want to lead that one off?
Yeah, let me take that one. So yeah, again, so technology is an amazing thing. And there's things that we can do now from a technology perspective. And I might be jumping ahead just from a visibility and a transparency perspective. But if you're getting the right data into that one source of truth that we talked about earlier, that pane of glass, you want to help your team become better sales reps. But at the same time, if I have the information to help me be successful as a leader and as a coach, I need that information as well. And I need to know at certain places within the sales cycle to be able to come in and make suggestions. But the technology is there. It makes my job that much easier. So I can see the kind of activity that's happening within a sales cycle. I can see that my sales rep hasn't had an email from one of my most important customers in the last 3 months. Well, red flag, right? So let's have a conversation about that and see why before that deal gets too far down the road and we lose it. So I think, again, technology enables us to see information that we never were able to see before. And it's making your CRM system more actionable, and it's making your sales leaders better coaches, better managers. And for us, it's just a great place to be, again, from just an overall innovation perspective, that we can have this technology at our fingertips and be better coaches. So yeah.
And just to add to that, I mean, that's a great answer. And one thing that I like to do, because it's in every organization is different, right? Like, what is success, right? What is the goal, right? So it looks different. What does your sales cycle look like? It could be a 1 year sales cycle, it could be 2 years, it could be 2 months, right? Everything is different. And even within those organizations, there's different objectives and different goals. So one thing that I've done in my career is kind of build out this prospecting cycle, right? Which could work for any vertical. And it's 3 phases. And it's an ongoing loop, right? So it starts with audience segmentation. Once you figure out who you're going after and you have the right database, the right market, then it's content development. What am I setting to these people? How am I going to get them to engage or to respond to me? And then the most important piece is measurement and refinement, right? So now we're looking at the data. What does the data tell us? And then we're making refinements and then looping it back into audience segmentation and then redoing it again, right? So maybe changing some of that audience, moving it around, and then figuring out different content. Again, you're going to measure, refine, keep going until you hit those goals. And again, the technology, to Neil's point, it's awesome because it's there for us now. We have that. And when I look at success, I'm looking at all 3 of those phases where I could see where one of my reps may need to focus. We need to look at your lead gen. We need to look at your content. We need to look at how you're measuring it, right? I'm measuring it a certain way, but how are you measuring it? How are you understanding your data? And again, the technology is amazing. It's there for us today, and we have to leverage it.
Yeah, and I would just add to that too. I mean, we've got these KPIs that we're putting that are in front of us, and we're trying to run to those KPIs on a daily basis, and it's live. It's happening real time. So if I know that my team has the right amount of meetings for the week in real time, and I can see that through my technology, again, that helps me be a better coach and a better leader. So the information that's coming into, again, this one pane of glass is super important, and if it's real time, it just makes it that much better.
And Daniel, I want to pick up on something you said in terms of the kind of the virtuous circle. Are there key signals or insights that you look for that help you tune that and really understand, is it working, and do we have the right tools and processes in place?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's always your basics, right? So it's, if it's email marketing, it's the opens, it's the clicks, it's the responses, the replies, the meetings you're generating, and then ultimately the wins. I'm a baseball guy myself, and I do a lot of sports analogies, so don't hate me for this. But I always tell a lot of my sales guys it's small ball, right? I'm a Yankee fan, and don't hate me for that. But Yankees are home run hitters. They're always looking for the long ball, the Bronx Bombers. But in small ball, usually that wins the ball game, right? So it's moving those people from station to station, right? Let's get the guy on first, right? And to me, to get somebody on first base, they replied. There's an interest there. I got the right person. I have the right email address. I now have him on first base. How do I get him to second base? I don't need to get him to second in one shot, but now I'm going to refocus that, almost going back to that prospecting cycle. Let me move him over to second, or maybe even third. Second base is that meeting, right? He's agreed to a meeting, or she's agreed to a meeting. And then third base is, we had a great meeting. This person is qualified. They're interested. This would be a great client for us. They're on third base. How do I bring them home? And then ultimately you bring them home. And I think that's always how I look at it, and how I try to teach my sales team to look at it that way. And when you look at each one of those segments within the prospecting cycle, there's always something that's going to stand out and say, hey, let's try this. Let's A/B test. Everyone should be A/B testing. And again, the technology is there for us to do it.
That's great. And what about, as both of you have enterprise sales cycles, meaning they're, anywhere from 9 to 24 months, depending on the prospect. How do you think about your pipeline as you look out over the horizon, beyond the quarter that we're in, looking out kind of 2 and 3 quarters? And are there tools that you use or processes that you use to really dig into that and understand, do I have a quality pipeline, or do I need to work and continue to fill that pipeline because we just don't have enough to deliver the results we're trying to achieve? I'll start with Neil.
Sure. Yeah, and my rule of thumb on pipeline is that whatever your number is, it's got to be 5x, right? So if we make that the baseline, then help me look, and technology is there to do that. Help me look 2 to 3 quarters out, and my reps are probably looking 1 quarter out. So again, if you got the right hygiene within your CRM, your reps should be looking out 1 quarter and making sure that's clean. So from a leadership perspective, I can look out 1 quarter and I can see the pipeline, but then I need to look at the pipeline 2 and 3 quarters ahead. And I'm always looking for a 5x number. So again, technology today allows us in real time to see what that pipeline is. I don't need to see, a report that came from last week or last month or last quarter. I need to see what's ahead of me. So the technology has to be real time. The data within your CRM has to be clean. So that's just that. Part of that is technology, and part of that is regiment, and a lot of that is leadership. So I think if those pillars around 5x, leadership looking, 3 to 5 quarters ahead, and then the sales team looking a quarter ahead, and having the right technology to be able to see real pipeline, making sure that the data inside your CRM is clean on a weekly basis. And frankly, that takes a good sales op team to make sure everybody's on the same page. So it's kind of a concert of things, but obviously pipeline, feeds the beast. And it's something that you always have to be on top of. And, that's, if you really want to dive into it, that's why it has a relationship with your marketing team to make sure that you're fulfilling the KPIs of marketing and getting the leads, and that you're always filling pipeline into the funnel.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Neil. The partnership between sales and marketing is definitely important. And you're definitely closer to the pipeline analysis than marketing will be a lot of times. And I think what I'm seeing on my end with this type of technology is the ability it's giving our sales reps, right? It's motivating them, it's incentivizing them. They're seeing the numbers in real time where they didn't have that data before. And you're right, it's giving them that regimen where they're now putting more calls into Salesforce, and they're able to track it, and we're seeing things through. And when they look at their data and their analysis, their analytics, they're seeing that, yeah, wow, I have, going back to the baseball analogy, I have 20 guys on second, and I have 10 guys on third. I'm really close to closing 10 guys. And again, it's different for every organization, right? And in our organization, it's a much longer sales cycle, bigger impact when you do get that sale. So it's harder, right? Like sometimes you lose your confidence because it's hard to get a sale, but then seeing those numbers and understanding the importance, right? And really celebrating those different goals, those different, first, second, third base, celebrating those, that's really important. That's motivating, and having the tools and technology to kind of call that out for the sales reps, I think really keeps them moving. And we're definitely experiencing that.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's really important to have actionable CRM. And so again, you have this digital process, and the pipeline's part of that process, which it should be. Then you're potentially again sending these signals to a sales rep that might not have enough pipeline. Let's catch that early, and let's not spend time on it from a leadership perspective, managing. Oh, you don't have a 2x pipeline for the sales rep. He only has 1.5, right? I can't spend my time on that. But the technology can look inside of Salesforce and see, hey, this rep does not have enough pipeline. Let's send them a signal and say, hey, you need to, work on the leads. You need to scrub your territory. You need to, go to a trade show, whatever you need to do to get that pipeline. But let's get that information to them early. So frankly, there's no excuses.
Yeah, it's a good point. We're seeing that a lot too, where we're going back and doing a lot of reinforcement training, right? So going back to adoption, right? So if somebody is struggling, you can almost see that in your data, and we're seeing that, and then we're going back in, we're doing some one-on-one reinforcement training, like I did with Bill, right? In my example, it's the same concept, right? Like, well, where can we help? What do you need help with? What are you not understanding? And the data is there to tell us that, and here's how we're going to make sure your pipeline is looking like the next person's, right? So it's super helpful.
And Daniel, from a signal standpoint or a insight standpoint, do you get involved at all in the pipeline and looking at it? And using kind of your baseball analogy, are there signs that you see, like the coaches telling them somebody to steal or something like that? Are there signs that you look for that indicate either, quality deals or quality pipeline, or the converse? Hey, these things don't look great. And if so, would love to kind of understand what some of those signals or insights might be.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think we're just starting to scratch the surface there on that. But I am seeing signals where we're seeing people that are highly engaged. So they haven't responded to us yet, but they're really engaged, right? And that means something. And I know in 2021, it's not as easy to pick up a phone call and make a cold call these days, right? So we're pushing more digital out to make that connection, that initial connection and engagement. But to have a more focused list is really a great way to say, okay, this is an easy, digestible list that I can pick up a phone and maybe call these 20 people in this week, right? And still my automation machine is still working in the background, still getting people on first base and second base and doing all those things, right? It's already wired. But now I could really focus my time, focus my energy on this 20 for this week, because I know that whatever behavior I'm tracking or I'm asking the signal to alert me on is telling me that, and I can go and I can focus on that.
So it sounds like you've almost created an autopilot. You've got first and second base, to use your analogy, on more or less autopilot, and then using the tools and the technology to give your team more selling time and more insights into deeper, later stage prospects. Yeah,
I think that's right. And again, I think this is something that I've always done in my entire career, even before Bessemer. It's what and Neil references before. You can't automate this 100%. It will never work. You need to have some human touch there. And I think in doing that, if you're at least the machine's working where you're getting people to first base, then you can really start to focus and think about, okay, well, how am I going to move them around? And again, those signals, thinking about what signals you need and for your organization that are going to be important. And that's a really important task for you to at least test and then define what is the best practice. This is what we should be looking at. Because again, nothing is set in stone, right? Well, this is why I love digital. There's nothing set in stone. We can always test, and we can always say, you know what? We were wrong here. We're going to make a change though, and then we're going to track it this way.
Great. Any other? We've got a few minutes left in the session, so if anybody in the audience would like to ask a question, you can go up to the Q&A icon on the right side and text in your question. Otherwise, any concluding comments from either Neil or you, Daniel, on insights and lessons learned that might be useful for the audience?
I think we said this, but I'm just going to reiterate it because I do think it's really important. Is a hand in glove relationship with marketing, and their goals should be our goals, and our goals should be their goals. I don't think there should be really much separation between sales and marketing because it's really too important these days. There's too much competition. There's too many players out there in these marketplaces. And so, the engine has to keep running on a daily basis. And if sales and marketing aren't working hand in hand, then that's a place where you can get into trouble.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think for all the marketers out there, put yourself in the sales reps role in their shoes and understand what they're going through, what their pain points are, and really understand what they're going through. Right, their job is very challenging. Right, they're hearing no a lot, and it can be very it hurts confidence, it hurts motivation, and for the marketer to understand that and to really work with the sales rep to bring in new technology, bring in new content, bring in all those things, bring in some measurement recommendations is really important. And I think the same goes for the sales side. Understand what the marketing person is trying to do for you and how that person is there to really help you. So leverage the marketing person.
Yeah. Awesome. Great commentary. Daniel, Neil, thank you so much for your time and your insights. Hopefully this session has been helpful. And for all of you out there that are revenue leaders, we wish you the best. And if any of us can help you, please let us know. Thanks for your time.